Ever come face to face with a wild animal that made your blood run cold? These real encounters will change the way you see the woods. Welcome to Fears, the home of true horror stories that hit deep. If you feel the chill, like, comment your own creepy experience, and subscribe for more fear you won't forget.
B. It was late September when Jeremy, a 17-year-old high schooler, agreed to help his uncle harvest corn on a farm in rural Nebraska. The fields were endless, stretching far beyond what the eye could see, and something about the dry, rustling corn always unsettled him, even in daylight. But his uncle paid well, and Jeremy needed the money. They had one rule on the farm: never work the fields after sunset. No matter how behind schedule they got, his uncle would call it off. The moment the sky dimmed, Jeremy thought it was just old farmer superstition, wolves, maybe, or coyotes, but that changed one Saturday. They were behind on the season's final harvest, so Jeremy volunteered to stay out a little longer with a headlamp. His uncle hesitated, then finally handed him an old revolver. "Only if you see the eyes," he said grimly. Jeremy laughed it off. As twilight bled into deep night, Jeremy worked in the thick rows, the corn towering over him. The only sound was the rhythmic crunch of his boots and the wind sliding through the stalks. Even the wind stopped. He turned his head. That's when he saw them, two glowing yellow eyes just above the corn. Not low like a wolf's, higher, taller than a man. He froze. The eyes didn't blink. They just stared. Jeremy took a step back. The thing mirrored him. It moved soundlessly, rustling the corn like a whisper. That's when it started circling him. He turned in place, trying to keep his light on it, but the eyes kept vanishing and reappearing from different sides, as if the thing was impossibly fast. Jeremy raised the revolver and fired. Once, twice, but the eyes didn't flinch. Instead, the thing let out a deep, snarling growl, not like a bear, not like a wolf, soothing, unnatural. Something that shook the corn around him. He turned and ran, the stalks slashing at his face and arms. Behind him, the footsteps thump, thump, thump were heavy and fast. He didn't dare look back. He burst out of the field, tripping into the dirt by the tractor where his uncle was already waiting, shotgun raised, plied her. She stood like that for several minutes, waiting, watching. Nothing came out of the corn. The next day, they found Jeremy's dropped flashlight deep in the field, crushed flat, as if stomped by something with hooves. They never found any prints. Jeremy never went back to that farm again. And his uncle, he never broke the sundown rule again. Chasen was a wildlife photographer who prided himself on solo trips. He believed that to capture nature's raw beauty, you had to become part of it, sleep in it, breathe it. That's what brought him to Chattahoochee National Forest in the dead of autumn, with only a backpack, camera gear, and a tent. On his second night, he heard movement near his campsite, heavy, slow, crunching footsteps just beyond the firelight. Not unusual, he thought. Bears roamed this area. He made noise, threw a rock, and the sound stopped. But deep in the woods, he heard something breathe, long and low, like air being pulled through rotten lungs. Jason sat frozen. The fire crackled, casting dancing shadows on the trees. Something moved just out of sight, circling. He grabbed his camera and slowly lifted it, zooming in with the night lens. Nothing but blackness, then to reflective dots. Eyes watching. Still he spoke to it, calmly, softly. "Get out of here. I don't want trouble." No response. The thing didn't blink. Jason slowly crawled into his tent, zipped it shut, and held the flare gun close. Hours passed. Then came the breathing again. Right behind the tent, Jason held his breath. Pray. A shape pressed against the nylon from the outside, huge, broad, hunched. It dragged its long nails across the side of the tent, not claws like a bear. Thinner, curved, human almost, but not quite. Then it spoke. A garbled voice, like an animal trying to mimic human speech, rasped, "Joson." He screamed and fired the flare through the tent wall. The light exploded out, searing the night. He scrambled out and saw it just for a moment. It stood upright, like a man, but its face was elongated, almost canine, with dark, matted fur, covering its hunched back. The flare reflected off wet, red-stained fur around its mouth. Its hinges hand-switched like it didn't quite know how to use it. And it bolted into the woods. Onto legs no bear moves like that. Jason didn't wait. He left everything tent, food garand, ran through the night until he reached a ranger station at dawn, bloody-footed and shaking. The rangers thought it was trauma, hallucination from dehydration, but they went to retrieve his campsite anyway. They found his tent, his equipment gone. No prints, no bear scat, nothing. But on one of the trees nearby, carved deep into the bark, were letters. Jason scratched over and over, 10, 20 times. With claws. He never photographed another forest again. It started with barking. Every night around 2:30 a.m. The same distant howl echoed through the pine-covered hills behind Sarah and Tyler's new cabin. On the outskirts of Flagstaff, B were used to coyotes. This was Arizona. After all, but this bark was deep, too deep. It didn't yip or howl like a pack. It called, long, throaty bellows, like a massive hound, baying for blood. Tyler joked it was the hell dog of the woods. Sarah didn't laugh. One night, the barking stopped, not fade, cut off, like someone hit mute. That same night, Sarah woke up to scratching at the back door. Not the front, the back, the one that led into the dark trees. She woke Tyler, but by the time he got up, nothing was there. Just long scratch marks on the wood, deep enough to splinter it. The next morning, they found huge paw prints in the dirt behind the house, much larger than any dog, with long claws, tips. Tyler took pictures, sent them to a local game warden. The response was chillingly short. Not canine. Stay indoors at night. That evening, they double-checked the locks armed themselves, stayed up late, watching through the windows. At 3:12 a.m. it came. Sarah saw the eyes, first two golden reflections just beyond the tree line. Then it stepped forward, two, to narrow in the chest, and its legs bent wrong. The fur looked mangy, stretched thin, over muscle and bone, and its mouth, God, VR, looked dislocated, swinging slightly as it breathed. It stood still, then it sat, then it smiled. Teeth yellow, too many for a normal dog, curved in a grotesque grit. Tyler lifted his rifle, aimed, fired. The sound shattered the silence. But the thing didn't move. It didn't flinch. Instead, it mimicked cocking its head the same way Tyler did, pawing at the ground. It was learning them. Tyler fired again. The creature leaped back, vanishing into the woods. Silence returned. By morning, the back door was wide open. The locks weren't broken. They were unlocked from the inside. And there, lying in the center of the kitchen, was a fresh deer carcass, gutted, as if gifted. But it wasn't the worst part. On the wall, above the dining table, clawed into the drywall, were 5 words. Let me be your dog. Sarah and Tyre left that day, packed whatever they could carry, and never returned. About a week later, Tyler got a text from an unknown number. It was a picture of their old cabin door, wide open, with paw prints leading inside.